Ambassador, welcome. What is the Oberammergau Symposium? What you are going to discuss this year?
The Oberammergau Symposium, or OGAU, as we say here at NATO, really is a flagship event concerning NATO's relations with its partners from basically all around the world. We have some 300 participants from countries extending from Algeria to Australia, from New Zealand to Ireland. We have a high number of keynote speakers, and what it is all about is NATO's relations with its partners, altogether some 35 nations, as I said, from all around the world, and we want to hear from them if we did in the past a good job with our partners. We want to hear from them what they believe we can improve in our partnership relations with those nations. So we are very curious to hear what kind of tools and mechanisms and instruments these countries wish to see implemented in our cooperation with them. So it's this time more us listening to them than the other way around.
What is the significance for NATO of its partnerships?
And it shows also how political this organization has become since the end of the Cold War, since the early 90s. As I said, NATO has developed institutionalized relations with some 35 nations. We have developed partnership pillars from the side of this alliance with partners in Central Asia and in the Caucasus, with our Mediterranean dialogue partners, with partners in the Arabian Gulf area, and even with countries far beyond the Euro-Atlantic area, countries like Japan, New Zealand, Australia and South Korea. In other words, NATO's partnership network is an extensive one, it's an intensive one, and these occasions, like we will have in Oberammergau, in the NATO school, is a flagship event which brings together all the actors in order to have a free flow of discussion.
How do you see their further development?
We have implemented partnership tools from our most experienced partnership, and that is the famous Partnership for Peace, a partnership with European nations who are not members of NATO, with, as I said, Central Asian and Caucasus nations. And these tools, defense reform, security policy issues of a wider nature, consultations on various issues, how to cope with asymmetric threats, all these things we are now starting to discuss with partners from the Mediterranean dialogue countries, from the Arabian Gulf and far beyond. So we try to make use of those instruments that we have experienced with view to those nations. But let me say one word which I believe is very important in this respect. It's not NATO imposing its instruments to partners. It's the other way around. It's partners coming to NATO, knocking on our door and say, well, can't we do business with you? NATO is such an experienced organization in security policy terms. Can we discuss with you? Can we consult with you? And can we possibly make use of your vast experience in security policy matters? And therefore, it's more partners coming to us than NATO going to partners. As I said, we don't impose our partnership to anyone. It's the other way around. It's a demand-driven process.
What's the goal of NATO in developing NATO's partnerships beyond the Euro-Atlantic area?
Yes, and here again, let me re-emphasize that it is not that much NATO reaching out to partners far beyond the Euro-Atlantic area. Of course, we do that as well. But it's a two-way approach, because, as I said, those partners that I just mentioned far beyond the Euro-Atlantic area are coming to us because they feel to be in the same family of nations, to face the same threats in security terms, to be exposed in an insecure world to the same threat dimensions that we face, but they don't have the instrument. They don't have a NATO. They don't have a security organization where nations stand in for each other. So they want to be part of this family because these nations are based on the same values as we are, and why should we not offer our cooperation to those nations? So it's as we say in English, it takes two to tango, and this is exactly what happens. It's NATO plus those partners and a joint effort and joint endeavor.
Through these partnerships, is NATO becoming a global security organization?
That's an interesting term that one reads in the media and hears in the media more and more frequently. I think it has become a sort of buzzword with some truth in it, but also with some misleading concepts. NATO, first of all, is not a global COP and will never be. For various reasons, there is no political drive behind this at NATO nations. And second, it would simply not be feasible with view to our own potential. So, no reason to talk about NATO as a global institution as such. But it is true from another angle. It is true in the sense that NATO is operationally engaged on 3 continents: Europe, of course, Kosovo namely, second, Asia, namely Afghanistan, and we are supporting the African Union and the United Nations in Darfur. So it is true that NATO operationally is engaged far beyond the Euro-Atlantic area, and that NATO's activities in political terms also extend far beyond, because we have consultations on issues like the fight against terrorism, issues in the sense of how to fight proliferation of weapons of mass destruction with many countries around the globe and with many international institutions as well. So the term NATO as a global institution is not correct. Whatever we do under the auspices of the United Nations. But it is true in the sense that our partnerships have developed over time into a global network.
Thank you very much, and let's wish all success to Oberomergau Symposium.
Thank you indeed.